We are recording.
Good morning, everyone. As our Zoom attendees come in, we'll just let them participate as they can. So thank you so much for coming today to our spring luncheon. So we hope that we'll have some great information for you. And as always, at the end, we are always gathering feedback, including on lunch, so you can let us know what you thought. We thought we'd try a little something different this time. But just wanted to start off, thought we could just go around the room. I know most of you know each other. I really expected our Zoom folks probably wouldn't know all of us, so we can just do a quick name and your school and what you did or plan to do on spring break. So I know that ours is right now, so I got to do this. Yay! But I'm Amy Washington, Northwest Kansas City Assistant Director, and I'll let Megan go next.
I'm Megan Bickley Hopper. I'm the Secretary at Kansas City. I'm Amy. I'm the counselor at Jefferson. And we don't really have spring break.
Yeah, you have an Easter break. I say, well, yeah. If you get Good Friday, are you doing anything good?
Family. Yes, that's about it. My name is Erin Hunter. I'm the high school tutor at Kansas City, and cleaning my house for graduation party. So that's pretty much it. I'm Sammy Grow. I work in the admissions office here at Northwest. We got Monday off. Students off all week. We got Monday off, and my family, they were in school. So that's a meeting.
I work in the admissions office here at Northwest, and I went shopping for spring break, so I'm Maurice Sneed. I'm a counselor at West Conway, and I go to Maine. We don't really have a spring break. We get a couple days there around Easter, but we'll go to Iowa and see family. I'm Becky Houchins, counselor at Neverland High School. I'm going to Florida next week. At
least you're not going to New York, right?
I'm Ashley James. I'm also at Neverland High School, and we're just going to go visit for our parents.
I'm Christine Benson. I'm the math department chair here at Northwest, and I've been mostly doing work and that kind of stuff, but we are leaving tomorrow to spend the weekend with my daughter and granddaughter.
Okay, to go?
Sure.
I'm Ursula. I'm assistant director of for the Emergency Success Center. So I supervise the program. So I just got back from California actually this morning. So
please tell me those travel plans were set before I contacted you.
yes, they were.
Okay, I was like, I didn't want you to come back early because of this.
I'm Marissa Hudland. I am the high school counselor at Fairfax. And next week we get 2 days off, so we're going to James State Park called Echo Bluff in South Missouri.
Oh, cool. I'm getting my hair North Broadway, and we don't have a Harlan Queen, counselor at Stanford. I also have a daughter graduating this year, so we're doing graduation.
I'm Abby Hoover at Northeast Ottawa. We're doing some cake.
I'm Jamie Madden. I'm the K-12 counselor at Ottawa Holt, and we just have a couple days for Easter break, so I don't really have any plans.
And the camera, I can't see Mike, but oh, and Darla, sorry. Darla first.
Oh, Darla Runyon. I'm director for our Learning and Teaching Center here on campus.
Zoom Master Mike.
Zoom Master. Man of many trades. No spring break? What'd you do Monday? Yes. Didn't have to show up here, right?
Doing nothing is a good thing.
It is.
Truly is spring break.
Well, thank you, everyone. And sorry for those that don't get spring break. I didn't mean to open wounds on that one. I thought everybody got at least like Good Friday or something.
I know.
We just want to start out today to kind of help you guys know a little bit more about what Northwest offers for, service-wise for our students and how that can also be utilized by dual credit students. And so we want to start off by talking about smart thinking as well as student services through our Student Success Center. And so I will let them duke it out. Who would like to go first?
I'll just get mine over with because mine's much shorter than I'm sure yours is. Because
Not my
he
favorite.
he does a lot more, but this is actually part of what he does. It's just that it's out of our office because we support the software, and it's mainly we got it set up for our online students, but we're finding that it can be used supplementary to some things that they do with the Student Success Center. So it's just another kind of little tiny component of that. So if you want to drive, if you go to that website, so basically Smart Thinking is our online tutoring tool that we use for our online courses. And then this is, actually don't go there. On this main page, on Northwest main page, there's an online learning link over there on the left in the black area. If you click that, that takes you to that Northwest Online login page that your students use if they're using the course sites with content in them. And I'll go ahead and log into mine, I guess. I'm not sure what you've got in yours. Of course, you can probably get to mine.
Did we mention the mic reports to Darla?
I can get mine. I mean, I know where my stuff is. That's why. But we do have actually 7, soon to be 8 online programs that are graduate level programs. And so that's one of the big reasons we moved to, or we purchased this software. It's free to the students, but they access it through their course site. So I'll just go into my course site that I use to teach. It's a campus-based 1 night a week course. And basically they'll go into their course site, and there should be an online, whoops, it's over here, an online tutoring link, which is right here. And it doesn't say Smart Thinking because we figured students would be like, well, what's that? So we named it just a generic online tutoring. So basically they'll just click on this and it should go right into Smart Thinking. It does a little quick system check for the student to make sure that everything's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and click here to continue. Hopefully everything's all right. So it just tells me, I'll just tell that to ask me later. But you can actually use this on your mobile. There's a mobile app for it. But you should have got a handout or 2 from me. There's actually lots of handouts from Smart Thinking.
They were the one I emailed.
Yeah, there's a couple in your emails, yeah. But there's a lot in there. There's math, there's business, there's science, statistics, nursing, which doesn't impact you guys, I don't think, at all. There's just a lot of different, there's a writing center that they provide. They provide, it's just growing what they have. Students can just submit a question. They can email back and forth with a tutor. The tutors are all master's level people or doctoral level people who are hired by Smart Thinking to do this. And you're probably thinking, why would you do that? Well, that whole online environment, there's a lot of people now who are doing that as their job. So it's not just the tutoring part. That might be something somebody does totally. That's all they do is tutor because they like to help people, learn things. We're finding also that there's a lot of people out there that just want to teach online. And so all they do is teach for, either one whole university because they get a lot to do at a university, or they teach for several different universities online. So the Smart Thinking tool supports all of that online learning. They can also, so when they go to like the writing center, they can submit information for somebody to take a look at, and they have a certain turnaround time period. I can't remember what it is, but they get back with the student on that. They can set up a web conference session so that they can see you can see them, and they can do a screen session with them and tutor them that way. I've seen it's just sort of starting to be used in the last couple of years on campus and with our online students. And most of the kids that use it, students that use it, I should say, are in the math area. But I've also seen a lot with business, with some of the problems that they have to do with business, that type of thing. But I do know I've had several use the Writing Center. Graduate students, level students have used the Writing Center for help, and they've said I've not actually got to use it. But they said it's really very, very helpful when they're working with them. They help them get through the writing process, and they work one-on-one with that paper. So it's basically, it's all online, and they can just go out and, like I said, they can submit a question, which I'm not going to do, but I'll bring it up. And they can, it's not a touch screen, darn it. And they can go in and select a topic if they have a question, and submit that question. They can get a specific discipline. They can schedule a session if they want to. So it can be as long or as short as they want it to be. One-on-one, like I said, just submitting a question, a whole session period. It just kind of depends on what happens. They do have these drop-in sessions. I know some of these, and I'm trying to see if I can find where it's at. They've changed their webpage a little bit. Some of these actually have, oh, it's making me select more. You did choose a subject. Ask a question. Have specific times that they're available, that they'll, you know, but they let the student know that. Let's see if we can actually get into something. Available, choose a subject. So it's just, it's kind of a self-serve piece, and the students should just go in and they actually set up what they need. See, I don't want to actually submit something, because then they'll say, what are you doing? But you can see in the background, I'm just testing something. You can see in the background that there's a little whiteboard. And so that's where they can write, and they can type, they can bring a picture in. You've seen this kind of a setup before, I'm sure. But that's kind of what they use. So it's not just, you know, a chat box. A chat box, yeah, which this is so much better. And any of the students that use it, they do ask them to do a quick survey before they finish, and some of them go ahead and do those. And I kind of check those every so often, and the students really like that, being able to get in and out of there and get a question answered quickly or whenever they want, for the most part. Most of these are 24/7, 365, so they're available almost all the time. Some of them, and they say which ones, have certain times that they can set up the tutoring piece, if you will, but most of the time this is available to the students all of the time. I don't want to start, I want to get out. Okay, I'll go ahead and hit start.
Oh, in session, is it above the video? Above the video box. On the right side.
Oh, there it is. I knew it was there somewhere. I'm just looking at this little thing's in the way. There. So I won't enter a question. I'll get out. I'll be like, wait a minute. In live session, exit, in session and save question, go back to a live session. So you can see it's a pretty robust tool, but again, it's right inside the course site. Multiple subject areas. They do have some study aids. They just had come out with these subjects with audio and video capabilities, where they can go in and take a look at information without, see here's some video lessons here. If you have a course site for your dual credit class, you can go in and play around with this and look at it yourself as well. And kind of, if you would like, what we can also do, I know that our representative with Smart Thinking would be happy, like if you have a large class of dual credit students, they could go through a whole piece with them on how to use it. But honestly, we didn't do any training with our students, and they went out and just started using it. So it's, again, just a resource that's available, and you can see there's a lot there that students can click into.
I think some things that would help your students access to well, know that they can record their sessions too. So like they can record those if they want to go back and watch them later. They can do that. They can, like I said, for a lot of the main classes like your math and science, like you don't use that, and it's just kind of nice. Doing the homework at 11 o'clock at night, log on there, ask a question, get off to well.
And that's when I've seen our students on campus here. They'll do it way late at night, because I look at the statistics on it and the data, and it's just, really, 2 o'clock? But that's when they're working.
Sometimes I've had to help, so this might be something you guys might not open with. It's the course titles don't match what they are here. So if there, that shouldn't affect most classes. It should be obvious.
Mhm.
For example, like chemistry or history, or credit history student, try to develop content history. You might be labeled something different here, so you might have to kind of sort of the option.
Like American history versus world history versus,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't anticipate that would affect you guys that much.
Yeah, I could see more like some of the business classes even. Yeah, you're right.
Can you show where, I saw that we've done an online tutoring and you put on that link. Will you put that website back up?
Sure.
What it looks like. So we can visualize it.
Let's see. Where did that go to? Where's my page? Okay.
This is all free too.
Yeah, your page is right.
Right here?
To enrolled students,
So it's,
to enrolled students, so.
I'll just back up. I'll just go here.
Nothing's over.
So, yeah,
It's free.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think it's coming out of, yeah.
And we are recording this session, and I'll be happy to share the video with you as well. So if you get back and
Want to go look
if
again?
you want to see the clicks again, we can do that.
But if you're logging into Northwest Online, which our course sites are for Canvas, I just click on online learning on the Northwest webpage. And then I log in on the login page to get into the courses that I have as a student or a faculty member. Oh, shoot. I put mine in the last time, sorry.
Save my username.
That works.
Yeah, she was smart enough not to tell your computer to say.
Anyway, so this lists out their little dashboard of courses. And so basically the student will go into your course, whatever it's called. They'll click on their card, and it's over here in this left-hand navigation bar. Typically it's down near the bottom, online tutoring right here.
So even our students that are in a, like an on-site dual credit class, they have access to that.
If their teacher has a Northwest Online site set up for the class, then yes.
Mhm.
So like Trudy, like she has, I know hers for sure, and Crystal, like the computing and Oralcom, they all mandate that they have to have it. So all of the instructors should have something, because they're supposed to be they're going to submit grades to us from here forward, so they should all have some sort of capacity of a Northwest Online site.
If you have
available.
students that aren't dual credit students and but they're in your class for just the high school credit and you're teaching everybody together, we have added those students in. They just don't get the dual credit credit. And yeah, and we've done that for a lot of people for years. Yeah.
So you have no problem with the high school students using this, that would not.
Right. No, we've done that for years. It makes it easier for you guys.
And it really doesn't matter what course, like she clicked on her ed tech
It's in
technology
every
computing
course.
course. It's the same link no matter which course you go into, and they'll select
Always.
the subject once it gets to smart thing.
Always has that online tutoring link. Yep. And like Amy said, the grades submit actually beginning in the fall. We're just going to be grabbing them. You won't actually submit them.
Oh, cool.
So we'll just go out and grab if you're using this site.
So these are counselors, not high school teachers.
Okay, so if the students are using the course site or the faculty are using the course site, our system will go in and grab the grades out of the grade book and we'll submit them into Banner for you.
Yeah, this last fall and then this spring, we have like, when the instructor's done with all their grades, there's like a click thing, like there's a button that they'll click this year.
Is it grade pass through
Grade
is what we were
pass, yeah,
calling
just-
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
just-
So they'll click on it this time to get them submitted. It used to be we would send password protected Excel sheets and, you're emailing in and student private information on email and the passwords would get lost, and it was kind of a mess. So we were trying to find a way, and the Northwest Online crew was so nice to give us this option for, because this is something our faculty don't even get to do yet. So, so they were kind enough to let our high school teachers do it. this
Right.
time.
So we're going to be pushing out this fall, though, that you won't really do anything after 10 o'clock on Monday morning. The system will just grab the grades, and
So that you have to have the grades in.
you have to have the grades in by then. Or,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of like here on campus where we have that timesheet. It's like
yeah.
that for you guys on campus. Yeah.
Hey, but you forget
If
that.
you forget about it, you're in big trouble.
You have to do it once.
But this is a great resource for your students, and it's really good for the faculty because it helps you. And I'll transition to you now, Kirk.
All right.
But it adds, it's just a tiny piece of what they're doing, but it's great for our online students or totally distant students if they need this help. But Kirk's office does quite a bit more.
Did anybody else have any additional questions for Darla specifically about the Smart Thinking or Northwest Online?
Don't hesitate to email us if you do. I think most of you kind of get a hold of us off and on, but we're there for you guys as well because you're helping us, you're teaching, you're part of our teaching as well, your faculty are, so. And your students are part of our campus, so.
Thank you.
You're just off for the first 3 tabs.
Cool. All right, so like Darla was saying, our goal is really to kind of basically have all these services available to students so that way they can get support whenever, however they need it. So that's, partly why we have a wide array of different things they can take option because we know it's like a buffet. You take a little bit of what works for you and then hopefully that combination is what helps you be successful. So currently what we offer in the Student Success Center is individual appointment-based tutoring, but we also offer walk-in tutoring at specific time frames. And so I'm going to show you one, how they can schedule their own individual appointments because we do have some individual appointments available in the evening. So they could come to campus and actually meet with students sometimes for those individual appointments, especially if they're in the geographic region, which sound like most of you were. And then, or they can meet online too. So they can do it online tutoring as well. So we're set up to do both. And so I'll show you how to do that option too. And then I'll show you the walk-in tutoring available, and a lot of those are in the evening too. So they can come to campus, actually sit down with the tutor and access some tutoring there too. So if they go to the Northwest homepage, a lot of these resources are going to be under this resource tab. So if you're ever curious to learn more about the Student Success Center in general or SI in particular or tutoring is the main one that's going to impact dual credit students. You just click that directly and you go to it. And I'll show you that page here in just a sec. So this is the main Student Success Center page. If they go to services, there's also another way to get directly to tutoring. So there's multiple ways to get to that tutoring page if you go there. On this tutoring page that has a little bit more about what services are available. And then it has a link here to make an appointment. So that's one option to get to where you can make an appointment. Down here is also the walk-in tutoring schedule. And so you can see here, some of these are throughout the day, which obviously is not going to work well for a lot of your students. But then there's some in the evenings too. So depending on what courses they're enrolled in, they can come to campus, go to this room. That tutor's never going to know that they're a high school student. It's they would just need to know their 919 number. I'm here for this class. I need some help. And they can go and get that assistance. So here are all these. There's some evening hours for biology, chemistry, some evening hours. This schedule is going to change every semester, though, depending on the tutoring schedules.
I think the neat thing about these on-campus tutoring pieces is that it gives a student, if they can get to campus, a chance to be on campus and get that feel for campus.
I'm going to plug for Dr. Benson's area too as well. So there's this math lab is also some tutoring offering through the Department of Math and Statistics, and I'm sure that those tutors would be welcome to help those students too. So if you click on that, then they also have a scheduled walk-in tutoring available for the math classes, which would be a large portion of your dual credit students too. And almost those are exclusively in the evenings too as well. So so those are great options for students as they go. So those are walk-in tutoring. Again, those vary every semester. This page might look a little bit different over the next couple semesters. We're trying to streamline, make it easier to use, everything like that. To schedule an appointment-based session, though, whether online or in person, they can click this link here, or if they're on the Northwest homepage and they go to that Bearcat login page, there is a place down here at the bottom. It's called Tutor Track that you would log in. Those links will take them to the same spot. So it's this Tutor Track link down here. Once they click on that, I feel like once I pull this open, it's going to take them to this page. It's just their S numbers, their email, and their password that they use for their email.
Should be the same thing if they're using Northwest Online. It's the exact same login.
Yeah, and if they've logged into Northwest Online recently, I think it would pass all the way through recently. So now after this point, once they get to this, it should come to this screen. Now, it's not very user-friendly, and I wish there was things I could change on it, but it's a pretty cheap software, so I feel like you get what you pay for a little bit on that. But this screen's going to pull up too. So there's a couple of things option here. One, there's another link to that walk-in tutoring, so that way they can always get to the walk-in tutoring there. There's also a link to detailed instructions on how to cancel or schedule appointments. I thought about sending that to y'all ahead of time, and I was like, I'll show you where to access it, because it's like a 30-page document. I don't feel like that's probably worth your time to print it off. So lots of screenshot instructions, those types of things. Click here, type this here, that type of thing. But I'll walk you through just for a generic kind of appointment-based session what that might look like. So over here on the left-hand side, there's a search availability. And so they'll click on that. Now they have two options here. They can pick SSC tutoring, which is the Student Success Center tutoring, or Writing Center. At this time, our Writing Center does not offer online tutoring. So if they wanted to schedule a Writing Center appointment, they would have to come to campus to schedule that Writing Center appointment.
Or use the Smart Thinking.
Or
Writing
use Smart
Center.
Thinking, which is probably what I would recommend for that online basis. But if they are available to come to campus and want to meet with the Writing Center tutor, they would be happy to do that. But then if you pick SSC tutoring, again, here's another link to the walk-in tutoring schedule. So that way, I wanted to repeatedly put that in there in case they found there was no appointments available, so they always knew there was other options. It's not going to let them search or do anything here until they pick what class they're in. So you can see I'm in a couple classes right now, but the classes that they're actually enrolled in through Northwest will show up here. So students that aren't actually enrolled in dual credit won't have any classes here, so it would be very difficult for them to schedule an appointment through this system. But they pick whatever class they're enrolled in. So if it's college algebra, if it's history, whatever it may be, they would pick that one out of the list. I'm going to pick study skills just for the time being. They just want generic study skills help or help. We have appointments available for something like that too as well. But they pick the class and then they hit search. You can pick a date range, you can pick a time range. I always recommend just leaving that wide open, because then that way you can see all the options that you have. But then here are all the options that are available for study skills help over the next couple of weeks. Each of these are individual slots. So you can see a lot of these are throughout the day. You know, we have a 10:30 and 11 o'clock. These green slots means they're one-on-one appointments, and then group slots are group slots. So usually groups are about 3 to 4 students, depending on what that is. Generally, I would not, we don't do groups online. So like you wouldn't be able to do an online group appointment. I'd be really surprised if you saw group options very often anyway. We don't typically do a whole lot of group appointments, but that is something that's becoming more common as we kind of explore this. But basically, if they want an appointment time, then they would just click the time that works for them. So let's say they wanted to meet with Dimitri at 6. They would click that time. And then they would pick, it's going to make them pick tutoring as a reason. They can enter their phone number. Now, the big thing that you see up here, it says type online appointment if your appointment needs to be online. The reason that's linked, I think that's linked back to instructions on how to make an online appointment. So if they get confused on how to make an online appointment, that's how it'll give them more information on that. But if they want to meet in person, don't do anything. It's safe. They can type whatever they're having trouble with in their notes. The appointment, the tutor will get a reminder the night before, and they'll be good to go. If they want it to be an online appointment, they have to type online appointment in that notes, or else the tutor will never know it's online. They'll be waiting upstairs in the second floor of the library for a student that will never show up because they thought it was going to be online. So unless they type online appointment in that notes, we'll never know. So once you hit save, it sends a confirmation email to the student saying, here's the appointment, and then we'll send them a reminder email the night before at like 7 p.m. saying, here's your appointment time. If it's in person, all they have to do is come to the library, second floor. They'll go to the front desk. It's a really obvious front desk that says Student Success Center on the front of it. They'll check in there, and then we'll get the office assistant, we'll get them connected with their tutor. If it's an online appointment, the tutors, what they do is they'll send a link to a Zoom session. And we'll send it maybe 5 minutes before the session, and then the student clicks on it, walks through the whole process. It's really easy. If you've never used Zoom, definitely encourage it. It's way more, in my opinion, user-friendly than Skype, because it just opens up, hardly downloads anything at all. And then the tutor will conduct the session as is. So our tutors are all trained in terms of how to conduct an online appointment, how to use Zoom, everything like that. They might fumble through it a little bit too. They're humans, but generally they know how to use Zoom and how to conduct those appointments and how to get the most out of it. Those tutors are all undergraduate students here at Northwest, so they've taken the class and been successful in it. So they're the ones that are conducting that appointment. What questions do you guys have for me on that?
If they do on ground in the library, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
I wasn't looking today.
Yeah.
There are visitor parking spots right along the library parking lot, correct? On the north side of the building, there's a few spots there that they could use because they're not obviously going to have parking permits.
Yeah. So if they're on campus here, if it's during the day, they need to use the visitor stuff. But if it's at night, they can park anywhere. There's no restrictions.
Okay.
5 o'clock on
5
free
o'clock
for
on
all.
free for all.
Which should
Okay.
be imagined, which will be when they probably be coming. So
And if you know that they're coming, I'm also, like the parking permit that I got for you today, we know a while in advance. We've worked with UPD, University Police Department, to see the parking, temporary parking
I'm glad
permits
you
for them as well.
There's those 5 spots too that are like 45 minutes. Is it 45 minutes?
For Starbucks.
And they're supposed to be for Starbucks, but I don't think that you put anything on your card that says I'm going in to get a Starbucks.
And they're not looking for you to come out with a cup.
Yeah.
They might get one anyway.
that's a good question.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
you should be good on that. So.
Yeah, and that is a perk to going into the library to get your coffee on the way up to your tutoring appointment.
It might seem a little intimidating, I guess, to come in, but I guess reassure the students that our tutors would have no idea that they're a dual credit student unless they tell them that they're a dual credit student.
I would
So-
see some of our students be more comfortable, like, two of them together.
Yes.
Is that okay for an individual
Yeah.
appointment?
So yes, they can go ahead and schedule an individual appointment. I can tell you that it'll throw off the staff a little bit when they come together, but they'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. They're used to handling group appointments. So yeah, they can definitely come together. The thing is that if they want to both schedule the appointment, they can't do it online to do that. But we'd be happy to help them. Just call us or email us, and we can set up a group appointment with the two students
They
together.
put that in the notes, say, I want to bring one friend.
Oh yeah, that would work too.
That way they-
It's just, it doesn't, in terms of a tracking perspective, it's hard for me I'll have to go back and switch it, but I'm happy to do that, or office assistants are happy to do that.
I had a high school student use it this year. I mean, she liked it, and I think she was really excited about that opportunity. But we had also used the chat now button on that page, which was super helpful because neither one of us had really ever done set up
Sure,
tutoring or
yeah.
anything like that. So the chat now was really cool. She was amazed. They just were answering us right back. And
Yeah. So generally on Monday through Wednesday, we're open till 7 at night, and then the other days we're open till 5. But sometimes we have those walk-in tutorings a bit later, on those times. Those walk-in tutorings, there's no check-in process. You just go to the room in which you go, and the tutor will take care of you. The other thing, sometimes on Sundays we'll have some stuff in the evenings too. It just sort of depends on the year and the schedule, and it all depends on the student staff we have on hand and what their schedules are. So, any other questions? Thank you for that feedback. I will pass that on to my
Do you
supervisor.
want to show really quick where she was talking about they would access the chat?
So if you go to the Northwest homepage, and then under resources, there's this Student Success Center. And down here, there's this option to chat now. So that's only manned whenever we actually have an office assistant, which is during those typical working hours. So
So that's
8
okay.
to 7, Monday through Wednesday, and then 8 to 5 on Thursday, Friday. But our hours are over on the side too as well. But yeah.
So you can just type in there, I don't get the Pythagorean theorem, and they'll just play or whatever.
No, it's more about so the Student Success Center also includes advising and a whole bunch of other programming. So it's more about generic questions, and then they'll help get them kind of bundled. So if they ask I don't understand Pythagorean theorem, then they'll be like, well, let me help you set up a tutoring appointment. So that'll be kind of.
what it was just about for us. It was more about understanding all of the logistics sharing. Like just there's walk-in, there's this, and she was doing that kind of a job, almost full time. Like she's working too. And so the Sunday, I think walk-in is what she ended up doing. She wasn't working.
The other thing I would say is that generally our tutors they try to be really flexible. So if you have a student that really needs support and nothing is working, like no walk-in times, no appointment times, just give us a call or send us an email. It's just really easy, studentsuccess@ndmissouri.edu. It's here at the very bottom. Our phone number, our contact information, and everything. And we'll ask a tutor to move a time to accommodate a student schedule. We do that pretty much weekly, just moving times around to meet student needs. So we're pretty flexible like that.
Just asking a question, it's really hard to get seniors and high schools to call and ask questions.
No, for sure.
Having that button is amazing. I feel, they will hesitate to type a quick question in there.
Yeah, God forbid you call anyone and talk. Well, so that's the thing, for years you had to call or email to schedule an appointment because we didn't have the online scheduling up and running. And so we knew that was almost a hindrance for the younger generations because they don't want to call, schedule an appointment. They don't want to come visit to schedule an appointment. So being able to schedule something online. It's pretty big. So.
Has anyone ever asked you that they want to do text tutoring?
No one says that.
Like,
That'd be
show up in
really
person,
difficult. Yeah, that'd be very challenging. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me as well. The other thing, those instructions for all of this processes and everything are on the tutoring page. So if you go to tutoring, there's loads of instructions about how to access certain things. Like I said, it's a big old PDF about how to cancel an appointment, moving an appointment, what happens if there's no appointments, some frequently asked questions, what are these different things. So it's all on there, hopefully to help you make that process a little bit more streamlined. So.
Any other questions for our experts? Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
both of you. On to our next expert.
Okay, don't know if I can quite go to expert, but I'll go ahead and answer some questions. I'm gonna get up here and kind of move around, so those of you people on Zoom, hello, here I am. I'll move
I don't think anybody ever logged in, so
What's that we're talking
we're just
about?
recording now.
Okay.
We're recording. We're recording.
Well, delay. Hello. Okay. I'm Christine Benson. I am chair of that department, and there have been a lot of different changes happening in the courses that we use for college credit. And can you bring up the handout that I sent you? It's in the email that you were sent.
There you go.
Okay. This is just kind of a placement guide to let you know what's going on in terms of the math courses that we offer. But also, I'm sure since all of the students that take dual credit are not necessarily planning on coming directly to Northwest, you also want to know what's going on with other places. Part of this is going to be handled in the discussion of the 442. But really quickly, the Math Pathways Initiative, I'm trying to get everybody to see the video, but we'll just come down here, was started a few years ago in an effort to widen the options for math courses people take. Schools like MU and some other of the flagship schools said college algebra or nothing, and college algebra is not appropriate for everybody. Not everybody needs it. The other problem that's happened with college algebra over the years is it has changed into what the heck does college algebra mean anyway? And so college algebra was originally designed to get people ready for calculus. Most people going into college don't need to take calculus, so they really don't need to be taking college algebra. So the state of Missouri, and I realize some of your students go to other states, but this is happening in other states as well. But the state of Missouri got together and created a Pathways Initiative where they were trying to create other pathways, as in gateway courses where people could take this course and then go in, complete their general education requirement at any public school at 2-year, 4-year in Missouri, and be able to transfer that to any school. And hopefully that would also be something that would lead directly into whatever degree program they're in. So the ones that we have in Missouri is a statistics pathway. Northwest already had a general statistics class. And then there's also a mathematical reasoning and modeling. And quite frankly, those things are listed on the Core 42 mathematical reasoning part, just so you know. We actually had 2 classes that are in that area. And then there's the pathway for STEM majors. These are people who, almost all of them are going to need to take calculus eventually. So they can either take pre-calculus, which just like 2 weeks ago, we changed to 5 credit hours because everybody else in the state was doing it as 5 credit hours. And quite frankly, if we didn't comply, then they were going to pull our motor number and it wasn't going to transfer. So there's a little bit of arm twisting there, but anyway, it is now 5 credit hours in every public school in Missouri. That course is designed to get people ready for calculus. For those who aren't quite ready to deal with 5 hours of pre-calculus, the course number that we had been calling college algebra is now pre-calculus algebra. That better, the title explains what it's there for. And it is the same textbook as pre-calculus. It's the same algebra as in the pre-calculus course, we just took the trig out. So it is a 3 credit hour course, and it will keep the course number 118 because our articulation agreements, that's probably where it fits best. This pathways process had been going on for the last several years, and the college algebra track was trying to figure out what they wanted to do. If they wanted to go more of an applied modeling approach, or if they wanted to go the real highly skilled, do everything by hand kind of approach. And at the time, we needed to make a decision at Northwest because our textbooks were literally falling apart. We'd had them for like 12 years, and we really needed to get a new textbook. We went where we thought they were going, which was the modeling pathway. And then after we bought all of our textbooks and changed everything, they decided, nope, we're going to go to the preparing for calculus pathway. So for the last 2 years, what we had been calling college algebra was actually the modeling version of college algebra. We still think that is an excellent course. We think that's what more students need to take rather than the highly technical getting them ready for calculus. So that we have put in its own course number. That's the 116 that you see right here. Okay, it's more of an applied college algebra class. All of our business majors are accepting this. Let's see, I think a lot of our ag are doing this. They're doing this as well as a lot of the programs have switched to general statistics being the recommended general education math course anyway. To be honest, if someone said to me, in fact, they have asked me before, do you think everybody needs college algebra? If we had to do just one course, what would it be? It would definitely not be college algebra. It would be general statistics, because I think that's just something everybody needs to have. But we're not going there. It's not down to 1. I'm not saying it is, but I highly recommend the general statistics class, and a lot of people are accepting this one here. The ones who are not, the ones who want the 118 pre-calculus algebra are our computer science people have decided that they want that pre-calculus algebra course. Because if they go on to graduate school, then they're going to need to be doing calculus eventually anyway, so that's just kind of the safer thing for them.
And they have a lot of extra math classes within computer science, so it's better preparing them for even those other upper level math classes.
Okay. And the stickler right now, to be honest, is our pre-nursing program. Schools like Missouri Western, who have their own self-contained full program, the course that they're having their nursing students take is this course. But I think it's Park. Some of the more elite nursing schools, they're still saying, nope, we're supposed to have college algebra. Complete College America, a national group, that is now on their radar screen to try to help educate nursing colleges as to why this is actually a better course for them. Really focuses on proportional reasoning and the types of problems that nurses need to do, like calculating drip rates and those other types of things. This is really a better course for them. I think a lot of schools continue to use college algebra as their weeding out course. They know perfectly good and well that students don't necessarily need to be able to do that level
of manipulation of symbols and factoring trinomials and all that kind of stuff. But that's their way of weeding out people that they don't want, which I think really stinks. But again, I don't get to make the rules. So the reality is that you still have to consider where your students are going. I can't control that. I always tell anybody who comes and they're talking about going to Northwest, I always ask them what their career plans are. If they plan on going to a graduate program at such and such a school, I say, okay, have you checked to make sure that the things you want to do here are going to transfer there? Well, no. And I say, you always need to go where you plan to finish and talk to them, because they get to make the rules about what comes in. So that is still the case, okay? I can tell you, though, that as we've been going to our Pathways meetings and we've been doing the co-requisite model versus the prerequisite model, are you comfortable with what that means? Does anybody not know what that means?
Co-requisite.
Co-requisite versus prerequisite? Prerequisite had been if you didn't meet the prerequisite, for example, a math ACT score of 22, if you didn't meet that prerequisite, for a college credit level course, we'll say this one, for example, if you didn't meet the prerequisite, then you had to we had something called math skills. Before that was called developmental math, but you had to take a non-credit pre-course or remedial math course, okay? And then once you pass that, then you could go take a college credit bearing class. That model just doesn't work. Even when people pass that, only half of them actually go on. Most of them just say, the heck with it, I'm not going to bother with it. They spend all this time and money. They're not going to get credit towards graduation. So it just doesn't work. What we've been doing, Northwest we're just finishing our second year of it, is doing a co-requisite, which means if you want to take this course, but you don't meet the prerequisite for it, then you enroll in this 3-hour class. You also enroll in, the course number actually ties right with it. It's 17-016. It's 016 because it still does not get you college credit, but it is a course that is designed to help you pass that specific course, rather than a generic, here's all the math you should have learned in high school, and we're going to try to cram it all into 1 or 2 semesters. So it's designed to help you pass that particular course. We have one for general statistics. We have one for the 116. We have one for the 115. 115 is our concepts of mathematics. That is for people who really are incredibly math phobic. They're doing something like an art degree or something that really doesn't specify any particular math, and they just absolutely hate math. That's what that course is for. It's not. It is not offered as a dual credit, but it also has a co-requisite course to go with it. Yes, ma'am.
That the 1701, the 016.
Right.
Is that going to be covered by financial aid, since it may not be seen as an actual class they have to
And if you are an on-campus student, yes, that it's covered by a financial aid. It counts towards being a full-time student. Okay, and actually it even counts in your GPA right up until you graduate, and then they pull it out. Okay. Now, the courses like pre-calculus and calculus. Okay. Those courses, because they're already 5 and 4 hours, we do not co-rec those. The way we had been doing it before is if you didn't meet the prerequisite for calculus, well, then you took pre-calc, because that's what it's designed for, is to get you ready for calculus. We've been struggling with what to do for, particularly when we went to the 5 hours, and we're like, really? And you expect them to take another 2 hours of a co-requisite? That's just not good. So, we were thinking about doing something that I went to a conference a couple of weeks ago, and Texas and Georgia are 3 and 5 years ahead of us. And they have been very nice to share with us all the lessons that they've learned about that. And I want to share that with you because as counselors, I think this is a really helpful thing for you too. Their pre-calculus algebra and their pre-calculus, they are not co-recking. What they have found is that in order to be successful in those, if you don't already meet the prereq, take some other math course. Doesn't matter what it is. But the experience of taking it, it's really more about the grit. It's really not, to be honest, it's not about your math ACT score. Now, we still have to convince our legislature that they need to be using something else. Right now, they're mandating that. But it has nothing to do with the math ACT score. It has to do has a whole lot better indicator is their high school GPA and their class rank. Because that shows they're good students, they get the job done. They're willing to work, they're willing to ask questions, they're willing to go to the tutor. By all means, you got dual credit people, encourage them to come to the tutors here because I want them to get used to coming to the tutors. And that's not a shameful thing, that is a smart thing to do that. So if you have students who are considering doing some of those higher level courses and they're kind of borderline as to whether or not they can kind of make it in, I really recommend they take a statistics class, or this one would also be a really good one. One of the students who took pre-calculus this past year, the year before, because she was thinking she was going to go a different path, she actually took this class. It was numbered 118, but it was really this class. And she told the teacher she thought that was incredibly helpful for doing well in the pre-calculus class, because in this class, it's applied. Students do not come out of this class thinking, when am I ever going to use this? They use real data sets that you graph it and you see, is that a line? No, it's a log. Okay, if it's a logarithmic thing or an exponential thing, and then they answer questions about the data based on that information. This class, they do a lot of symbolic manipulation when it's linear. When you start getting into quadratics and logs and trinomials and those upper level things, they recognize that that's the model that needs to be used, and then they tell the technology, use a logarithmic model to model this data, and then they fit it to that, and then they use the model to answer the questions. There's much less of the factoring things and all those other things that people hate about algebra and say, when are we ever going to use this? Because the reality is they usually don't actually use that very much until they're doing some things in upper level calculus. So this one gave her a much better understanding of what math was used for, and quite frankly built her confidence up a whole lot more in it. And she said that it really helped her when she did choose to go to a STEM major and then went into the pre-calculus and the calculus. Okay, that's kind of my big picture. Do you have particular questions for me? Yes.
First, I'm going to make sure I put this down right. So 118 is 3 credit hours?
Yes.
And then 117 is 5 credit hours?
Correct.
Okay.
And actually, is that on that handout? Because I didn't think about changing that. I think that's changed since. I don't think it's on there. I can put that on there. Yeah, it doesn't say what the 3 credit hour, what's. The only thing that, they're all 3 credit hours except for the pre-calculus, and that's going to be 5.
Okay, and then my next question is, so if a student is say a business major, which you said 116,
yes.
That.
Mm-hmm.
If they take 118, will that?
That's fine. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, businesses, they've changed their thing where that or above is fine.
And is that true of every department? I mean, if they're saying we want 116, but a student takes 118,
that's fine. Yes. Yep. Yep. The thing that I think I need to be clear about with 118 is that one of the reasons why we wanted to change it is because people weren't being really successful at it. And again, it was this, we did this 30 years ago, math has changed. What we need math for has changed. And that's why we went to the newer one, the 116. The new 118 will actually be ratcheted up a bit from what it had been before we changed it. It will be a challenging course. Yeah, that's not, they're all challenging. They're challenging in different ways. But in terms of the being really technical and doing a lot of symbolic variable manipulation and that kind of stuff. Now, one of the reasons why you need that if you're going to go into computer science is because in computer science, it's basically about variables, when you're programming things. And they take things like discrete math and that kind of stuff. They need some more of that higher level stuff. We are going to, this year we're revamping our pre-calculus algebra to align very, very closely with our pre-calculus. Like I said, they're going to be the same books, a lot of the same lessons and that kind of thing. We want to make sure we get that right and have a really quality product. So we are going to do the dual credit for that this year, but we are not offering that as an online thing until we have a chance to really get that worked out. And the main reason for that is because right now, when I talk to my colleagues across the state, and I'm sure it applies to other states as well, to be honest, we're really concerned that students who do pre-calculus dual credit aren't being really successful in calculus in college, because you're doing it, you're often taking a whole year to do it. It's just different. And I say that with a great deal of respect for our high school math teachers. It's not, sometimes they're really defensive about that. It's not you. It's a different conversation when you're a year older, to be honest. Our brains change. And
Well, also the classroom you're sitting in,
yes,
knowing your other fellow high schoolers and then going to a room full of strangers could be very intimidating
Right,
as well. A lot
right.
of social things happening at the same time. when
Yeah,
you get to college.
and you're adjusting to just being away from, there's so much to adjust to in college that isn't about what's going on in the classroom. So
Will you be presenting this to our math?
Yes. So
Okay.
yeah. So we
Okay,
are,
yeah.
Dr. Sadek, I believe, has agreed that
Okay.
you'll be connecting with your teachers that are teaching the math classes, so that to kind of go over the changes, what
Mhm.
that is, and if you need to make decisions at your level of which one of your preferences, of
Mhm.
which one of your offerings, if you need to kind of change ship and sail a different direction
Mhm.
with some of the additional information provided now. So
Okay.
I believe he was going to follow up with them, because I was
Okay.
like, I can't talk to a math teacher.
That's
She
what I'm
lost
asking,
me.
how am I gonna-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I got
Yeah.
real lost. I'm like, what? So
Well, again, because we don't use it, right? It's
Right,
like, what the heck's a trinomial? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Does that teachers get in on that if they don't do dual credit for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to
I
know
mean,
what's going
honestly,
on.
I would love to just come sit and talk to high school math teachers, whether they're,
and I'd be happy to set something up here if they're willing to come.
yeah, because
to the
it's,
session.
they're, part of being a high school math teacher, and I've been one, is you need to know what you're getting them ready for.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I encourage you as counselors to do is go look at this Core 42 thing. This is ours. Go, if your students say they want to go to MU, go look at theirs. MU now has a mathematical reasoning and modeling course, and they're, in fact, the woman that we just hired last week or 2 weeks ago, just hired. She's going to be an instructor here. She's finishing up her master's degree. She and one of the faculty at MU are the ones who designed that course. They did 3 sections of it their first semester. This semester they're doing 17 sections of it. Their journalism majors are just eating it up, and if you're not in a STEM program, then they're good with taking that. They also have a statistics class. I don't know if their statistics class is a general education course though. But again, look at the other schools. You can go online. We'll need to probably get them that link, so that you can go online, look at that articulation. The Core 42 is for things that will transfer anywhere in Missouri. I don't know what that means for KU and K-State and that kind of stuff, but just don't go there. No, no, seriously. But that way you can look on there. The whole point of what the Core 42 is about is articulating and matriculating that process, so that like people will see that if you take our 115 or 116, it's going to matriculate to this. It's called a motor number, Missouri transfer number. And this is what it goes to at this school. Okay? And for those where they've got one thing coming in, but then we've got 2 options, they'll just call me and or they'll send me a syllabus. We've got people who do that in our admissions office and our transfer office. They say, which one does this fit best as? And I tell them. And it's going to transfer. Somehow it's going to transfer. We've always been really good about, if there's a way to make it happen, we make it happen. Okay? Mm-hmm.
Our current dual credit college offers students, which of these was that? Like, is that
The current ones that they just took in terms of content is the 116.
the ones?
Is the 116. Now, because it is the 118 number, it will transfer. It'll transfer as the 118. So it will transfer as the pre-calculus algebra. And if they're done, I'm good with that. Or they're going to take a statistics. If they are going to take a STEM field that goes into calculus, I would recommend that they take the pre-calculus wherever they're going.
So is 117 actually a content-wise higher than 118?
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. The 117 is actually the 18 and 19 put together. 19 is not a general education, that's our trade class, and it's not a general education course. So that's why it's not on that list. But yeah, 15 I would say is the lowest. Probably 114. 14 would be the next one. It's just different. Statistics is just different. There's very little computation done with statistics. Statistics is a whole lot more about reading about something, getting some data. We talk about what the technology does, but the technology does 99% of the work. There's, you know, again, I think general statistics is just an incredible course to take, particularly in this day and age when you have all this fake news and what the heck is Facebook doing with their data. When you hear something out there, should you be paying attention to it? Or is it, no, they didn't do that right, so it's worthless? You know, I just think that's something that more and more people need to understand how to do. So.
4 out of 5 dentists recommend using Crest.
Yeah, there you go. Alrighty, yeah.
Practical with what our kids are doing now.
Right.
Our kids have taken college algebra as a dual credit class because they want to take as many dual credit classes as they can in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I tell them as they're going to college next year? Is there anything that I should be telling them as they're going to college next year from this?
Right. If they're doing, well, if they've already got a college algebra class, then they have fulfilled their general education class probably wherever they're going. I think Truman requires calculus for everybody, but, and again, the state's trying to twist their arm on that, but I don't know, you know, I can't do anything about that. It's a lot of it, quite frankly, is about what their next math class is going to be, is whether or not they're doing the STEM subject. Okay. So look at that program.
Hey, if you're going in for STEM field, you might have to do the math.
Uh-huh. And you should expect to, because that's what the EM is. You're expecting to be doing more stuff, and calculus being part of that.
So probably pre-calc should be on their radar as
Right.
the next step.
Telling the kids going into the STEM field, maybe college algebra as a dual credit isn't the right class for you.
If it was my kid, I would.
Okay.
Honestly?
And that's what I need to be telling the kids
Yeah.
that are getting ready to sign up for dual credit classes
Right.
next year, our juniors. Hey, if you're thinking about a STEM, so what if
Or
they wanted to do a math, what would you say they need to do?
Either the 114 or the 116.
114 or
Uh-huh. That's the general statistics or the mathematical modeling.
will those be offered online dual credit?
Yes, those two are online.
Well, we haven't
Yeah.
determined our online dual
Oh,
credit
got it. Okay.
yet.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're still working through that.
They are
That's great
available
that she said-
online.
Yeah, I was like, if she says
Yeah.
that they're available online, we can work through what is going to fit best, what the needs are of the school,
Okay.
and what we can offer. So
Okay.
I know this is a completely different
Mhm.
subject, but we've had a few kids that, because of what they're going into, the field that they're going to want to go into, and they're just higher level students.
Right.
We've done AP calculus.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still a good match if they're? what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I think AP Calculus is probably a good thing, because AP Calculus, you don't automatically get the college credit. You still have to prove the test and get that. And if you don't, well, then you've had a good calculus course. You're going to go in, and when you take calculus course for college credit, it's going to be easier for you. I think that's still a good thing.
I know that's kind of not what you want really brought up in the deal.
no,
Well,
you know the floor is open. We're here for students.
We're here to be
successful.
student successful. Yeah.
And the test was hard. I know we had one student that got a 5 on it, and a couple other that got like 3s.
Uh-huh.
It just depends on the college that you're going to.
Right.
like, what you have to get.
Right.
But
And we also have, and it says at the bottom of the placement guide that was up here, we have a placement test. If students don't, say they miss the math ACT number which by the way, we lowered. when we changed the pre-calculus algebra. No, when we changed the pre-calculus to 5 hours, we also put, I'm going to send it to you because I don't want to misspeak.
Well, I think
But
that
I'm pretty
that
sure.
info sheet that Tammy's develops for us to send home to parents for enrollment process.
Okay, we'll get ready for that.
It'll
Okay.
have the updated sub scores and everything on there.
Yeah, because that had been up to, everything else was 22 and that was up to 24, and I'm pretty sure we brought that back down to 22.
So
Okay.
there's some options there.
Because again, we found that it really wasn't much about the math ACT score. It was about the grit and the tenacity to get it done. Yes, please say it. Well, people think, people say, well, it applies to everything else but math. It's like, no, it's really about just do the work, get it done.
So this co-requisite course that the students have to take,
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like? Is that like online? Or
No,
is it an actual?
in fact, we're right now, we are refusing, we're getting some pressure to put it online, but people who don't do online course shouldn't be doing the course online. So even I've got one person in my co-requisite class who is doing, she's doing the online stats course because she just didn't have any other option. She's a full-time, mom and worker and all that kind of stuff. But the co-requisite she takes face-to-face. It's typically 2 days a week. We prefer to have, like, I teach statistics Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the co-requisites on Tuesday, Thursday, so that way they get daily exposure to it. And sometimes we do some of the homework that's in the course. Sometimes we'll do a couple of, we'll take one thing that we know people typically struggle with, and so we'll go a little bit deeper with that. Usually the day before they have it in class. And what we have found, to be honest, is really exciting is some of the students who are in that co-rec class that, of course, really hated being there, because from the moment you walk in the door, you feel like I'm here because I'm stupid. We try to tell them that's not the case, but right now we're starting to see that those are the ones that are typically raising their hand in class because they've seen it before. And so they're really building that that confidence, which is, that's a lot of the success is the thinking you can do it.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're a small school and
Okay.
we don't offer a lot of math classes.
Okay.
Pretty much students have to stay on one track.
Right.
And the only one that we offer high level is called algebra. So I didn't know what your thoughts were. Is that something?
She's talking high school level
Yeah.
college algebra.
Mhm.
Which I did have a couple students take the online algebra and statistics, but is that what we should still be offering as our high level math class for seniors?
So are you talking about for dual credit or?
No.
Okay, no, I think that's great. That's still just fine.
For
That-
the non-STEM kids, because, you have some undecided kids, you have kids who are
Right.
not going into a STEM field. And my goal is for them all to take college algebra, because that's gonna prepare them for whatever math class they're gonna take in college.
Yeah.
And we need to look at that curriculum and say, well, maybe we're not teaching the right stuff in that class to get them ready for these other two classes, statistics and the math modeling or whatever. because
Right.
that's the classes they're gonna have to take. Is that something we need to look at our curriculum? Because I don't know, honestly, I don't know what our curriculum is.
Right. No, that's.
You don't know the curriculum of
Yeah.
all of your high school classes?
No, but
Are we not preparing them for the classes they're gonna be taking in college if they're not students?
right.
That's my question.
By all means, you should always look at your curriculum periodically, and we would be happy to partner and help people look at that. To be honest, my biggest thing would be to change the title, because it's probably not really college algebra. If it's not something that they should be able to take a trig course and walk right into a calculus class, then the title is probably really your biggest thing. Maybe advanced algebra or.
We actually call ours math analysis.
Okay.
We call ours
Okay,
math
great.
analysis.
Great. But yeah, we are at the state's recommendation, and I was thrilled because I've been saying we should do this for years. Get rid of the term college algebra because it just means so many things that it really means nothing.
Did anybody stick on it? Any other colleges keep it?
Missouri Western might have. I think Missouri Western did. Yeah. But they typically do their own thing, and that's fine. And I don't mean anything against them. Shoot, we have that conversation before.
Well, I was just asking because I knew
Yeah.
that we had just talked about it. I was like, I wanted to know who has it left, because we were trying to
Yeah.
figure out in the KC market,
Right.
as we're requiring pre-calculus algebra for some of our majors and that sort of thing. we were trying to figure out if any of our Kansas City competitors
Mhm.
would be just saying, oh no, for this you only need, it says college algebra, but it ends up being the same thing, but it's less intimidating sounding.
Yeah, well,
for
it has to
students.
be articulated, because for the math ones, that you had to send in your syllabus, and they had a list of student learning outcomes, and you had to have every single solitary one of them on there. And I had to sign a thing swearing that I would make sure that they actually met all of these
And a
things.
drop of blood on the
Yeah, exactly. These other subjects, they went off of catalog descriptions, and good enough. And I'm like, why do I get to do that? But it is really highly articulated. So as long as they're being honest, it should be the same thing. But as counselors, I strongly encourage you to get used to going to that motor number site to see, because it'll have
And I've got
what everything
snapshots.
it'll show you what everything transfers in, because it's supposed to be a nice easy transfer, and that goes into effect this fall. So I've taken way more of my time.
I
So,
didn't need all of my time.
Okay.
Fine.
all right. If you need any other questions, Steve Benson, just send me an email. I'd be happy to let you know.
And if I can help in any way, if you
Mhm.
all want to coordinate a thing with your teacher for info session or looking at specific curriculum, I'm happy to help get connected with the folks in the math department as well. If we can get a group thing together. I don't think I can explain this all. Well, then I think she said something.
The biggest thing you need to know is that there's more to life than college algebra. And for a lot of people, college algebra is way more than they needed. It's way more stressful and terrifying than math needs to be.
And, in my head, our math department also, Stanford, it's one of those things, I think we've been in the same book for I don't know how many years. And so if we need to look at something different, we need to work with some guidance.
Mhm.
And so
much like
Any other questions? So how about I follow up after this meeting and with you after a while, let you all go talk to your math teachers and administrators and see if you're interested. And I'll follow up with all of you to see who we can get invitations to and maybe get something coordinated in a time frame that would work for everyone. So, perfect. Awesome. Okay. I think we're ready for PowerPoint, please. Yes. Now I'm going to skip a few slides because I did intro slides for everyone in case we needed it. The midterm green. It's okay. We can just skip ahead. Do you mind driving?
Oh, no, you had the wireless mouse. I thought you were doing that. All right.
It's very good. You can skip ahead a little bit until it just gets to the 442. Okay, so I put this together assuming nobody knew anything, but I heard there was a presentation yesterday at Missouri Western on 442. I do not want to bore you all to tears. Is there anybody here that is like at baseline knows nothing hardly about it? Okay, so I'll try to cover it and quickly so I don't bore everyone else to tears. So feel free to get another lemon bar if you already know all of this. Basically, the Missouri Department of Higher Ed came to all of the public Missouri institutions and they said they wanted to develop this Missouri transfer agreement. They're calling it 442. Across, as Dr. Benson mentioned, across different institutions, different classes are different numbers of hours. And so I say 42, that's what MDHE is calling 42. So when you go to the individual institutions and you start adding up on a calculator, sometimes different. Northwest, it appears more 44 in my calculation.
At least 42, but that didn't flow well.
Yeah.
So the core at least 42.
So there was math credit hour differences. I think some of the foreign language maybe across the state there were some differences in the number of hours. And so in sciences, especially those with lecture lab and then how much you get each of those. So I'll just say 42 and we'll know later that it's probably not 42. And so they were just trying to find the backing behind it, and what MDHE stands there and says, we want to do something that is better for the students. And that is like all of the decisions that kind of went into putting this together and how we're supposed to implement this
is we're supposed to stand back and say, what is better for the students? It's like what they kept preaching. So it's supposed to be helpful and not harmful, and it's just trying to give students a little more leverage to move around. Now, this, to my understanding, has come from the premise of, was developed more for actual college transfer students. So we're looking at it as more of the community college student going to a 4-year, or a 4-year to a 4-year. But the real was the 2-year to a 4-year transferring was the goal line of the best service possible. So as I kept hearing about it, I was like, but what about dual credit? Because like a lot of you guys have multiple partners, they're coming from all different directions, you know, different institutions, 4s or 2 years or whatever, and then they end up where, and then they might transfer again. And so I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew about this because it does impact the dual credit side of the world. I think I've got it now. So basically, all of you, we have this. This is actually the MDHE version. Dr. Benson had mentioned there's a Northwest version that they're still fine-tuning. And if Dr. Benson, you want to check out the bottom, I went to, MDHE updated it Monday.
Okay.
Right? They told us it was supposed to be done March 1st, but they updated it on Monday. So I don't know that Northwest has gotten theirs probably updated since then because I printed these on like Tuesday. And so this is what the Missouri, the motor numbers, MOTR motor is the Missouri transfers where that motor number comes from. So as you can see, there's the different knowledge areas or the different colors, and there's dozens and dozens of courses listed on here that qualify under the motor. So in thinking of transfer in general, this is the best, better, and good options of transferring for college students. So the best option is going to be that they complete a full Associate of Arts degree. It's going to be in the 60-some hour range. And whenever they transfer that to a 4-year institution, the 4-year institution is going to go general education done, unless they have directed general education courses specific to that major, like a specific science class for an education major, or a specific statistics class for a business major, or something of that nature. So the Core 42 is kind of a second tier option for students. It's kind of the middle option. It also will accomplish completing all those lower division courses. As you all know, the associate's degree sometimes has things that'll offset even major level courses. Like if you're going for an AAT, Associate of Art in Teaching, it starts knocking off some of those early education classes during that associate experience. And so the Core 42 is not going to get into those major level classes, but they're still going to have that completed, done package. The institution that is granting the last bit of the Core 42, to my understanding, is going to be obligated in some way to put this core symbol insignia onto that student's transcript if they choose to move that on to another institution. All of this is about transfer students. So the other audience is the native student, the student that just shows up and stays there. And so it doesn't really impact them, their course of study so much. It's just a matter of if they ever so chose to leave, they're trying to provide an additional service. If a student, and I assume that a lot of our dual credit students are in this last category, they're moving from institution to institution without the entire package. It's going to just go down to a course by course, but there's still, if the institutions have each defined in this crosswalk, I'll show you in a little bit, how they align to motor numbers, it's still going to be a seamless transfer. It's just going to be on a course by course basis. Does that make sense? So the Core 42 is put together with certain things in mind. These are why we have general education in college. And so what are students getting out of general education experiences in college? Because they always, me in college, I hate history and political science. Why am I here? You know, and so this is the reason and the backing of general education and how the core was put together. So they want students to be able to understand valuing, the ability to understand moral and ethical values for society. They want to be able to manage the information that they're receiving. So these classes are all having to point to these factors that are helping build that student academically and personally. They want them to also concentrate on communicating and their higher order thinking.
So that it's in your PowerPoint. I don't want to read that all to you, but that's kind of why general education exists and why the 442 was put together and how everything is supposed to connect back and how they developed these sets of classes. So of the knowledge areas, you can see they're in different colors. So you got social behavioral, the written and oral communication, natural science, math sciences, and humanities and fine art. It got a little messy because when they updated it on Monday, now it's on a third page. But if you can kind of follow the colors from one side, everything on the left stays on the left. So the social behavioral is the left side of the page all the way through. They expanded the humanity fine art is what the big change that appeared to me without getting too deep into the weeds. That's what expanded more thoroughly this last edit. I believe that I think that it's supposed to be, this probably is going to be pretty close to the final list of motor numbers. So this is what the state is saying, please come and colleges come to us with how your course numbers align to these motor numbers. And then for at least the 18-19 academic year. To my understanding, if this all goes through in the 18-19 year, the MDHE will be receiving feedback from the institutions. Was there something missing that should have had a motor number? Is there something else that we want to include to be transferable from institution to institution easily? So they just want to get something down, get started, and then obtaining feedback. So as your students are moving through the systems and things, if they're coming back to you from college or you're hearing things, be sure to let someone at the universities or college levels know. They'll be gathering feedback along the way. I wanted to let you all know that prior to this edit, with the version before the March 1st edit, I went through on our dual credit course offerings list on our website, and we put the motor insignia next to those that do qualify, as well as the motor number that appears on here. I believe there are still, as always, additional opportunities for additional dual credit classes, especially in the on-ground capacity. So like right now, the probability modeling,
Mathematical modeling,
that class is not listed on here just because I can't list it here until the school says they won't. And then I would clear it with Dr. Benson's area, and then we can move forward. So if you ever see anything that's on this core listing or in our catalog that is something that you want to start offering that's not out here, always please call and ask. We're excited to expand to the high school's needs. So hopefully MDHE is done defining what those motor courses are this spring. And the post-secondary institutions have submitted several rounds, to my understanding, of how we align to those motor numbers. There is an appeals process on a few of our courses that we're hoping that will get shored up, so we'll be able to have some additional offering opportunities that fit into those motors. So I believe the post-secondary institutions need to finish all of that by spring. I thought it sounded like sometime April, early May, it's done for the next school year. So everybody knows where everybody's at. And in the fall of 18, as students are bringing those transcripts in to a university or college, it's applicable to them. So just as you mentioned, as she mentioned, they've already taken the college algebra, what it was called. It's going to look like they took pre-calc algebra, and it'll be accepted under the pre-calc algebra motor number to wherever they went type situations. And if as defined by the institutions that said this is what equals pre-calculus algebra. The credit hours vary between institutions, but the least number of hours I can figure out for the Northwest, it'll be a 44 package that they would have to achieve. And then aligned to the Math Pathways Initiative. And I was really excited because the version I saw of this before did not have the math modeling on here as a motor number, and it does now, so that's kind of exciting. And then the next thing I wanted to show you is Dr. Benjamin mentioned the course transfer tracker. So eventually the Missouri Department of Higher Education will publish this online system for students to use as a tool to kind of figure out where they're going and what's happening. And I can see this being very useful for a dual credit student, especially if they have lots of providers. And so they would simply be inputting where they're transferring from, where they're going, and then the motor classes in there.
And then it'll go into even further deeper. They have lots of credits, so they could, say, hey, I went to Metropolitan Community College and I've had X, 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 and X. This is how it equates over whenever I go to Missouri State. So that's kind of neat. So it'll help them make those plans at that next college. And it'll also show them about which areas have been fulfilled within their 42 core, so that they kind of have that checked out completed list. So they know that what should remain. Because I went to Truman State my first year. And so whenever I transferred to Northwest, being, freshman in college and not doing anything about transferring, I didn't look ahead to like what Northwest wanted. I just kind of had this like assumption of what general education was. And so like I took like a PE type health wellness class thing. I didn't need it when I got here, and I was enrolled in calculus because it was a minimum for them. And I ended up dropping that when I knew I was transferring because I didn't need it here because I had a different math class that counted, And so hopefully this will clean it up for a lot of people. I was very fortunate that I have a lot of wasted credits, but this is hopefully going to help them have 0 wasted credits in the end. So hopefully we can help educate students on the shortest path.